Lucius Malfoy was the Death Eater right in Voldemort's inner circle and one of his most trusted followers. He made an appearance in almost all the Harry Potter books. This is the life of Lucius Malfoy. Lucius Malfoy was born to Abraxas Malfoy in 1954, into a very old, wealthy, and gentry wizarding family and raised in the lap of luxury at the family estate, a magnificent house which had been in the family's possessions for many centuries. Around 1965, at the age of 11, he began to attend Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry and was sorted into Slytherin House, which numerous like-minded young idealists also found themselves in. During his school career, his skills in potions even earned him the recognition of the school's potion master, Professor Horace Slughorn, the head of Slytherin House, who had him to join his slug club of promising students. At some point in his third year at school, Lucius's father became suspected of having a hand in the premature retirement of Noby Leach, the Muggle-born Minister for Magic to ever hold office due to a sudden and mysterious illness which had befallen him. In his fifth year, Lucius was made a prefect, which showed the hard work he put into appearing a model student in the eyes of his teachers. In 1971, he warmly welcomed Severus Snape into the fold after the Sorting Hat put him in Slytherin, and they would later become close friends. Lucius graduated from Hogwarts around 1972, but becoming independently wealthy, he did not need to get a job. At some point, he married Narcissa Black. Their son, and their only child, Draco, was born in 1980. Lucius became one of the Lord Voldemort's Death Eaters and helped wage the First Wizarding War into an attempt to bring down the Ministry of Magic. Some of his activities may have included taking the lead of torturing Muggles. This would be the time that Lucius would be entrusted with the Lord's old school diary, which he was told that it was bewitched so that whenever it moves to Hogwarts Castle, it would reopen the legendary Chamber of Secrets and send the Basilisk living inside to finish Salazar Slytherin's noble work of cleansing the school of all Muggle-born students. When Lord Voldemort marked the Potters for the prophecy, his intended killing curse rebounded back at himself and destroyed his body, leaving his army shocked and distraught. After that, the Order of the Phoenix and the Ministry of Magic rounded up many of his followers. Eventually, Lucius himself was caught and put on trial for his involvement in the Death Eater activities in support of Lord Voldemort's controlling. Lucius pleaded his innocence and claimed he had been acting under the Imperious curse. While he was able to avoid the fate of many of his former Death Eaters, most of which were sent to lifelong detention in the wizarding prison of Azkaban. Some people, like Arthur Weasley, never believed his version of events, and felt Lucius was in Voldemort's inner circle. They were some of the first to come back to our side after disappeared, said they've been bewitched. My dad doesn't believe it. He says Malfoy's father didn't need an excuse to go over to the dark side. After that, Lucius lived a rather good life with his family, wealthy and therefore without any need to work. He was more than happy with a settled life, making himself busy with holding his influence in the Ministry of Magic. Lucius did not search for Voldemort after his sudden disappearance, believing him to have died that night in Godric's Hollow. Lucius was still associated with his former Death Eaters who, like him, avoided Azkaban, many of which became close friends of the family. Indeed, he even remained in touch with Agaro Kogarov, who had won his freedom after a capture by cowardly putting numerous number of his former fellows into Azkaban in his place. The greatest evidence for his initial carelessness and taking a look back at the past, a lack of faith to the Dark Lord himself, was how Lucius disregarded rumors of Lord Voldemort's survival as wishful thinking, and instead looking interest in probably allying himself with the very person who brought his former master downfall. He even took comfort in the thought that one day he might get a second chance of world domination if Harry Potter grew up to become another and greater pure-blood champion. As the time of Draco's magical education grew ever closer, Lucius informed his wife that it was his wish for his son to attend Durmstrang Institute, where Karkaroff was now headmaster. The school did not allow Muggleborns to attend, and it was also argued that Durmstrang took a far more sensible line about the dark arts than Hogwarts, which was still headed by Albus Dumbledore. His wife, on the other hand, did not like the idea of Draco going to a school so far away. They decided that he would go to Hogwarts, after all. It was probably with the hopes of influencing the day-to-day running of Hogwarts as much as possible, and undermining Dumbledore's authority, which led him to join the Hogwarts Board of Governors. As a governor, Lucius submitted a dream to the Hogwarts headmaster to have a fountain of fair fortune banned from the Hogwarts library, as it shows a love between a witch and a muggle. Malfoy claimed that he did not want that. He would say, "I don't wish my son to be influenced into the purity of his bloodline by reading stories that promote wizard-muggle marriages." This marked the beginning of Malfoy's long attack to have Dumbledore removed from post of headmaster of Hogwarts. In 1992, during his son's return home from his first year at Hogwarts, Lucius was informed of Harry Potter's refusal of Draco's offer for friendship in favor of his loyalty to the Weasleys through their youngest, Ron.
The wrong sort. I can help you there. I think I can tell the wrong sort for myself, thanks.
Despite his disappointment that the wild hopes of the ex-Death Eaters that Harry was another and better Voldemort were completely unfounded, he nevertheless discouraged Draco for seeming too excited about the Potter boy, as Draco spent a lot of his time away from Hogwarts talking badly of Harry and him being placed on the Quidditch team as a first year. Over the summer, Arthur Weasley began to conduct raids on several wizarding households to catch any illegal objects under the recently proposed Muggle Protection Act. Before his home could be raided, Lucius sold several of his possessions at Borgin & Burke's and set in motion the old talk that Voldemort assigned him, which involved reopening the Chamber of Secrets. Although his master fell before the plan could happen, Lucius still had Tom Riddle's diary in his possession. Therefore, he could still make excellent use of it and purge Hogwarts of Muggleborns, also destroy the Weasleys' reputation, and hopefully even have Dumbledore removed from his position at school. Lucius slopped the diary into Ginny's schoolbooks after meeting the Weasleys at Flourish and Blotts, just before the start of the school term.
And I thought your family could sink no lower.
Only the Malfoys' house elf, Dobby, was aware of the diary's true nature, but Lucius did not believe his servant would interfere since house elves were unable to refuse the commands of their masters. Dobby took this to his advantage by attempting to warn Harry Potter against returning to Hogwarts. Early this year, Lucius brought the whole Slytherin team Nimbus 2001 broomsticks, as Draco was made the team's seeker. He was present in the match that day where Harry was being chased by a bludger who was cursed by Dobby. Students and animals and ghosts were petrified by the basilisk that Ginny released as the diary's control on her became stronger. Lucius used the terrible results to influence the school's board of governors to discredit and vote to dismiss Albus Dumbledore as the headmaster for his poor decisions on the school. He would say, "I'm afraid we feel you are losing your touch. How many attacks have there been now? 2 more this afternoon, won't it? At this rate, there'll be no Muggleborns left at Hogwarts. We all know what an awful loss that would be to the school." Harry found a way to save Ginny and killed the basilisk with the Godric Gryffindor's sword. He then destroyed the diary with the basilisk's fang, which, though he did not know at the time, was a Horcrux, and he also destroyed the piece of Voldemort's soul inside. Harry proved Ginny's innocence and pointed an accusing finger at the true criminal, Lucius. However, Dumbledore warned Lucius not to sell any more of Voldemort's old school things, as Arthur would likely trace them back to him. After that, Harry, in favor of Dobby, managed to trick Lucius into setting Dobby free.
Dobby?
Master has given Dobby a shock.
He did this by wrapping the diary in his own sock before handing it back to Lucius. Dobby then caught the sock after Lucius carelessly threw it aside. Therefore, he was no longer forced into the servitude of the Malfoy family. In a fit of rage upon both losing his servant and being tripped by Harry, Lucius lost his remote control and tried to attack Harry.
Lost me my servant!
However, he was stopped by Dobby, who pushed him down a flight of stairs. Lucius had no choice at the moment but to leave. While his role in the opening of the Chamber of Secrets could not be successfully proven, Lucius was ultimately stripped of his title at Hogwarts school governor for threats against 11 other colleagues. During the year of 1994, Lucius's son, Draco, was attacked by a hippogriff named Buckbeak during a Care of Magical Creatures class.
You were such a flip-flop!
Buckbeak? Away, you silly creature.
Oh, it's killed me. It's killed me.
Lucius took the case to the Ministry of Magic's Committee for Disposal of Dangerous Creatures and insisted that the hippogriff be put to death. Buckbeak's owner, gamekeeper Rubeus Hagrid, hardly tried to defend himself, with the assistance of Hermione Granger, arguing that Buckbeak had been provoked by Draco and had attacked it in self-defense. Despite his actions, Malfoy still won the case and Buckbeak was sentenced to death. However, before the Ministry executioner could carry out the execution, Buckbeak was saved by Harry and Hermione using Hermione's time turner, and then it came to be owned by Sirius Black. 1994, Lucius attended the Quidditch World Cup with his family, sitting in the luxury box of the Minister for Magic Cornelius Fudge, though he was disgusted that Arthur Weasley was there in the top box with his children along with Harry Potter and Hermione. Lucius and Arthur restrained themselves due to being Fudge's presence. In the aftermath of the cup, Malfoy and some other former Death Eaters were involved in the torture and humiliation of a Muggle site manager of the stadium and his family, though it was not known at the time in the public and officials. He fled when the Dark Mark was launched into the sky. When Lord Voldemort rose again in the summer of 1995, Malfoy returned to him on a summons, claiming that he'd done everything he could all along to find Voldemort and help him rise again. Voldemort believed that Malfoy had not truly gotten away with his old ways, but questioned his loyalty because Malfoy had fled the Dark Mark at the World Cup.
Not even you. Lucius.
Even though Harry witnessed Malfoy's declaration of loyalty to Voldemort, almost nobody in the Ministry believed him, and Malfoy continued to maintain a strong ties to the very high places in the Ministry. In 1995, Malfoy appeared to be doing shady dealings with Cornelius Fudge in the Department of Ministries just before Harry's trial. It was implied that Malfoy was giving money to the Ministry. Malfoy's meeting with Fudge was also used as an excuse to place the Imperious Curse on Ministry officials, such as Broderick Bode and Order of Phoenix member Sturgis Podmore on Voldemort's orders. These curses were placed in order to obtain Sybil Trelawney's first prophecy. However, these attempts were short-lived as Bode failed to obtain the prophecy, therefore causing Voldemort to murder him, and Podmore was arrested for attempting to break into the Hall of Prophecies. Lucius also gave his support to create the post of Hogwarts High Inquisitor for Dolores Umbridge to inspect the teachers' performances. During an interview about this post, he used this to discredit Dumbledore, under the presence of caring for the future of the school and fearing Dumbledore's wrong decisions. After the failure of his previous attempts to obtain the prophecy, Voldemort successfully obtained to get Harry to the Hall of Prophecies by planting a vision of his godfather being tortured in his mind. Malfoy, along with Bellatrix and fellow Death Eaters, were involved in the Battle of Department of Ministries when they were sent to obtain the prophecy from Harry's hands. However, Harry and the 5 friends who accompanied him, all Dumbledore Army members, managed to hold off the Death Eaters until several members of the Order of Phoenix got there. Lucius's mission to receive the prophecy ultimately failed when Neville Longbottom, under the influence of the step dance from Anthony Dolohov, accidentally broke the prophecy. Lucius was seen by Ministry officials that were called by Albus Dumbledore to the scene. With the evidence that points to his identity as a Death Eater, Lucius was promptly sent to Azkaban prison, as was the rest of the Death Eaters. The only exception was Bellatrix Lestrange, who escaped with Voldemort. After the events in the Department of Ministry, Voldemort mainly blamed Lucius for the failure, as Lucius was the head of the Voldemort's small task force. Lucius Malfoy's failure at the Department of Ministries, combined with him accidentally destroying the part of Voldemort's soul contained within the diary of Tom Riddle, resulted in any loss of standing with the Dark Lord. Some believe that he was happier in Azkaban than being free. In the summer of 1997, nearly a year after being imprisoned, Lucius and all the other Death Eaters escaped Azkaban prison with the help of Voldemort, who never bothered to get him out after all that time. It was mentioned that Lucius might have been secretly glad to be kept in Azkaban as he was away from Voldemort and his terrible wrath. Voldemort had convinced to do so by Draco Malfoy's success in the plot to assassinate Albus Dumbledore. In actuality, this was a further attempt to punish Lucius, as Voldemort really did not think Draco would succeed in his mission and would dispose of Draco and possibly the other Malfoys as well.
Please. Avada Kedavra.
However, because Draco didn't kill Dumbledore himself, the Malfoys were no longer held in high regard by the Dark Lord, who made their home as a base of operations, and his favor fell on Bellatrix Lestrange and Severus Snape since he killed Dumbledore. Voldemort openly murdered the family at a Death Eater meeting in the summer of 1997 and took Lucius's wand. In short, Lucius had been reduced to nothing more than a servant.
Do I detect?
The Malfoys were given a chance to be forgiven, and thus were excited when a group of Snatchers led by Fenrir Greyback brought Harry Potter and his friends to the manor in the spring of 1998. Lucius pressed his son to identify Harry, and he identified Ron Weasley as one of the author's Weasley's sons. However, Draco denied knowing if this was Harry or not. He then argued with Bellatrix about who would be the one to call Voldemort with their dark marks, but they held off when Bellatrix noticed Gryffindor's sword, which she had believed to be in her Gringotts vaults, among her possessions. After that, Bellatrix tortured Hermione Granger for information about the sword with the Cruciatus curse, while the others were taken to the cellar downstairs. After Hermione lied about the sword being a copy, and Griphook went along with her story, Bellatrix was about to call Voldemort, but Dobby and Malfoy's former house elf came to the rescue for the prisoners. Harry and Ron ran back upstairs, and the kids stunned Lucius and Greyback.
Might it not be more prudent to call off this attack? Simply seek the wall.
Narcissa lied directly to Voldemort for Harry's sake when he informed her that Draco was still alive, and she and Lucius ran through the crowd, not even attempting to fight, screaming for their son. Lucius was present for Harry Potter's final defeat of Lord Voldemort. Following Voldemort's defeat, Lucius, Narcissa, and Draco sat in the Great Hall during the celebrations, looking unsure that they belonged there. Lucius and Draco's crimes were forgiven due to their abandonment of Voldemort and his cause, and Narcissa lying to the Dark Lord that saved Harry Potter's life in the Forbidden Forest during the Battle of Hogwarts. None of them served time in Azkaban due to the evidence that was provided against fellow Death Eaters, and he helped to ensure the capture of many of Voldemort's followers who had fled into hiding. Lucius would eventually gain a grandson, Scorpius Malfoy, after Draco married Astoria Greengrass. Because of Astoria's change of view regarding blood purity after the war, Lucius and Narcissa found her to be somewhat disappointing daughter-in-law despite her pure blood heritage. According to Draco, Lucius was frequently telling Astoria that he wanted grandchildren to continue on the family line despite Draco telling her otherwise. Lucius Malfoy is one of the most iconic villains in the Harry Potter books and movies, popping up all over the place. Lucius, being such a one for blood purity, led him to join Voldemort and ending up in prison after failing to receive the prophecy. In the end, his love for his family made him leave Voldemort. Do you think that the Malfoys should have spent time in prison after the Battle of Hogwarts? Please vote in the poll so I know what you think. Thank you for watching. Today is a longer video because last video was very short, so we're trying to make it up. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment. And please make sure you vote in our poll that we have listed for both whether the Malfoy should have spent time in prison and also about what Harry Potter character we should do a life story on. Thank you for watching.